Navi.
Julia.
Joel.
Ross,
Michael.
Mike.
Andy, Carl,
Jake.
Holly.
Joseph. Zora. Brandon.
Dean,
Eileen.
Mitra. And here we have Bob. Here we go.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
I don't know what I've got to say this morning, but the strangest thing happened. When I woke up, I couldn't speak.
I'll go to this one just in case. Yep.
The voice had disappeared altogether. And didn't know what to do, but the boss wouldn't let it go to waste. So he put some clothes on me and said, "You've got to get up and talk." So I'm here. What the talk will be, who knows, and who cares? But what we talk about is nothing new. That's what you'll see in all the ancient texts, if you look into them closely. Can anybody hear me?
It's very soft. It is a bit soft, but
The ears are open, yes.
You'll have to get the whip out, won't you? What did I just say?
try and speak up as much as you can. If you can't, well, we'll just have to have absolute silence.
What was the last thing he said? It's nothing new.
Nothing new.
It's nothing new.
Nothing new.
Nothing new.
you're not teaching us anything new.
No. Well, that's a fact. Because everything already is. And what's they call in all the ancient scriptures, that which is non-conceptual, ever fresh presence awareness. Just this, nothing else. And we've all got this idea we are this separate entity. So this is no bloody good, I can't hear myself talk. This separate entity, an individual, but it's not. And that's the mistake we've made. That we've learnt these words and taken the word to be the real. But you look into the word, is the word the real? When you investigate it, you'll see it's not. And that's another thing they point out. The false cannot stand up to investigation. So all these erroneous or false concepts we have are not what we really are. Am I this body? Am I this mind? And you don't have to be a rose scholar to look at that and see. You call it my body, my mind. Who's the me or the my you're relating to then? Is it the body's body or the body's mind? It's not. They are just concepts, words that we've learnt come up and translates into the thought, I am. And that's the great mantra. I am that. And just have a look at that. Because we've taken to be the body, we say, I am this person. I am this individual. I am this body, mind. But then again, am I this body? No, it's my body. Who is the me or the my that the body belongs to? And you realise it's just a mental concept, a word we picked up or learnt along the way. How many words were you born with? And you realise you weren't born with any words. You didn't have any words till you were a couple of years old. When your parents fussing around you, tell you your little Johnny or your little Jane, or whatever the name they've got for you. And you learn the words I am, the sense of presence. So you say the sense of presence translates as the thought I am. And that I am, we have many different concepts and labels for, which have all been picked up along the way. You were not, there was nobody that was born with any word. So how can you really say, I was born? And what was born when you look into it? Was it what, the sense of presence, the knowing that you are? So the word is not the real. As I say, you can't drink the word water. You can't swim in it, you won't drown it. You can't cook with the word fire or heat yourself with it. So what's this word I or me? Just a concept we've learned. And they tell us again in the ancient text, the great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. And they describe this non-duality, one without a second, as existence, consciousness, bliss, or being, knowing, and loving to be. Anyone who is not being right now, you know you're being. Anyone who is not conscious or unaware, and you know that, I'm not unaware. And anyone who's not happy to be. Well, none of you want to be dead right now. You want to be. So you already are that, Sat Chit Ananda. And the name and form that it expresses as are words or concepts we've taken on board. And this, they tell us it's perfect, it's absolute, or the great perfection. If it's perfect, what can you add to the perfect? You can't add anything at all to it. It wouldn't be perfect. And what can you take away from it? There's nothing you can take away from it. It wouldn't be perfect. So you must be that. And isn't that the great mantra? I am that. And don't you initially and already know that? Because it isn't just to say, that's the chair I'm sitting in. That's the space in the room. That's the room itself. That's the tree, that's the flower. That's the mountain. You realise that everything is that, which we put concepts and meaning into the words. And take the concepts and words to be something other than what I really am. So, with a little bit of investigation, and you realise you are not that concept or word. And they tell you the great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. It's awareness without any concepts. And is there anyone here who is unaware right now? You really know. I am aware. So, and what's the I am? The I am is the sense of presence. It's not the thought or the word I am. It's that sense of presence of beingness. Another word they express it as being, knowing, and loving to be. Anyone who's not being, you realise, no, I am being. I'm conscious. I'm not unaware. So you are already that. And it's the search itself that becomes the problem. The belief that I am not the thought or the idea or the word I take myself to be. I am not that sense of presence. It's the sense of presence which translates as the thought, I am. But the thought or the word is not the reality. So, from that point of view, is there anyone here who is unaware right now? And you must recognise it. No, I'm not unaware. I am that presence awareness. I am that pure being. And that's another way they put it. Being, knowing, and loving to be. Anyone who's not being right now, you say, no, I'm being. You know you are that being. And you know there is a knowing of that being. And there is a love of being that. So you already are that. And it's the search itself that has become the problem. Because you can't take it to believe the concept or the word I am. The Buddha called it a cognizing emptiness. An emptiness that has the capacity of cognizing or knowing. And he made the statement that emptiness is form, pointing out that all this manifestation is empty formed. He said, emptiness is form, and he turned it around the other way and said, form can be nothing other than the emptiness. So it's all that absolute presence awareness, or pure intelligence energy, all the vibrating patterns, shapes and forms. So, if you are not the form, what can you be? Well, we've taken ourselves to be this presence awareness. But is there anybody in this room who is unaware right now? You'll say, no, I am aware. So you already know that. And the thing is, to drop the sense or concept of being separate and see that separation is not the reality, and live from the presence awareness, the beingness, the knowingness, and the loving to be, the absolute. And that's not hard to do when you get the eyesight of it and have a look. But how did this belief in the person come about? How many words were you born with? You realise you weren't born with any words. And you didn't pick up words till you were a couple of years old. But you were functioning and living prior to the word. So you're before the word. And we've taken a word to be and believed it to be so. And I am Bill or Bob or Jane or what a label's been put on me by my parents. Taken that to be real. And now I've lost sight of my true nature and believe I am this person. I am this separate entity. But I am, when you look at it, is just a sense of presence, the absolute, the knowing that you are. Somebody asks you who you are, you'll say, I am Bob or Jack or Bill, whatever your name is. You won't say, I am the absolute, I am the reality, because that's lost in the description or the patterning and forming of the words. But that is the actuality. And we pointed out before, that's the great mantra. I am that absolute. Now, if you recognise you are the absolute, who can be superior to you? Who can be inferior to you? And what would you want from anybody else? You realise as that absolute, you are actually everything there is. Looking in this manifestation, you'll see it's all the one essence, the one life, or the one intelligence energy that patterns, shapes and forms, appears and expresses as everything and the no thing also. There is exactly no separation in non-duality. That's the idea or concept of being a separate entity, an individual, that is the cause of all our problems. For it's only me that can be unhappy. It's only me that can be fearless or hateful or jealous or envy. Me, this belief in the me, is the cause of all my psychological suffering. And the effects of that cause are fear, anger, depression, jealousy, envy, all these psychological concepts we have are the belief in the cause, me. And investigating that and having a look, you'll see that that I am is the sense of presence. It's not what you are at all. And the word we use is not the real. Is not the thing. Have a look at that. Take this word water. Can you drink the word? You know what it represents. But it's not the thing itself. The word fire, can you cook with it? The word me. Is that what you are, this conceptual image? When you look into it, investigate, you'll see the word's not the thing. And how does it function? You'll see it's all vibrating dualistically. As Shakespeare told you a couple of thousand years ago, that there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And when you look at it, that's the way it is. How you think. It's either good, it's bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, loving, hating. It's the word that's dividing everything. And that comes about with me and the other, dual. And there's no duality in non-duality. So things need to be recognised as they are, not as they appear to be. Because what they call this manifestation, that which appears to be. An appearance means it seems to be so. It's not as it is. It's what seems to be. And you see that they call it a phenomenal manifestation. All this manifestation is a phenomenal manifestation. Look up your dictionary and look up the word phenomenal. And the definition of phenomenon is that excuse me, that's which it appears to be. So all this manifestation is appearance. It's only seemingly so. And you look into that and realise that what you seem to be so is not how it is. And you get the taste of how it is. That you are that absolute. You are that reality. And then the bondage of self, where's it going to attach to? Who or what? And look at me. That's all the problem is. What they cause and effect. The cause of everything, every problem you've ever had or ever likely to have is the belief in me. I am unhappy. I am sad. I am no good. I am this. I am that. But without the thought, what is there? You look into it and realise that this me is the cause, and ask yourself a simple question. Can there be an effect if it's not related to a cause? Now, cause and effect, what do they call that? They call that karma in the scriptures. Karma, it's all happening to me, and I am the cause. But what happens if you investigate and seeing that the concept, me, is only a word? It's only an idea. It's only a thought. And ask yourself the simple question. Can there be a thought if it's not related to me? If I'm not related to this conceptual image, me, you realise there can't be a thought. So without the cause, there cannot be the effect. So cause and effect is dualism. And we're talking about non-duality. The cause, effectless, the timeless, the spaceless, beyond where, when, how or why. The actual presence awareness. And realise that is what I am. And there's no concept or thought that I can relate to that will fit it. For it's only me that can be fearful. It's only me that can be unhappy. Only me that can be stressed or guilty. That me is the cause of all this psychological suffering. And Wei Wei told you that a couple of thousand years ago. He says, why are you unhappy? Because everything you say, everything you think and everything you do is for yourself. And he says there isn't one. When you look into that and see it's true, there is no personal self. And what is person? Doesn't person come from persona, a Latin word meaning the mask? Pointing out, well, there's a belief in this conceptual image of being the person. You're believing in you are this conceptual image. Me is the cause of all your psychological problems. And the effects are me. So break it all down and seeing that me is a concept. And without the concept, you cannot negate your beingness. And say, see, with the concept, there will always be this problem there. For it's only this me that can be unhappy. It's only this me that can be fearful or anxious or depressed. That me is the cause. And the effects are the belief in that cause. Look into that and see for yourself. Nobody can ever do it for you. Because when you look into it, this non-dual, one essence, one manifest state is all there is. But it has the capacity of appearing and expressing as everything. And you are that capacity. You are that pure being. Look into that and see. I'm not going to talk much more because there's nothing I can say. But there are people here who have recognised and see what I'm saying. They'll carry on and point to it. And there are others here who are just looking into this stuff and something might resonate with them and I start to open them up. And so it goes on. But it only can be passed on from the actual to the actual when it's recognised as the actual. So we ask you to get into it yourself if you've got any questions, any doubts, or tell us your version. and see where it goes from there. So away you go.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
So I hope everyone heard enough to just find that resonance. It really is all about just bringing it back home to the fact that there is non-dual, meaning one, meaning there is nothing and no one who is ever separate, who could possibly be separate. So it really is about the recognizing of what is already here. Everyone is already here, is already conscious, already aware of existence. So what Bob says, already that. You are already that field of consciousness. You may have a concept or belief that you are something else or something less, but that's just a thought. When that thought is not there, well, the inevitable direct experience of presence is here. So this is the part when we invite people to, well, just make sure I'm not sitting on the air pipe. Invite people to share about it, because the good way of reinforcing that recognition is to just bring up whatever resonates. Bob makes it as simple as it gets. So if anything touches your heart and it kind of causes like ringing a bell feeling, that you can feel that this is worthy of highlighting, because it is a recognition of what's already there. So any phrase or any statement or any paragraph of Bob's set of reminders, if you want to just highlight or bring up, that's lovely. We don't usually bring our personal stuff or history unless there is an example, or other teachers and what they said and what it meant. It is really just digging into the direct experience of this moment and seeing what obscures that obvious realization of being present and alive right now. There may be contextual issues that may be obscuring it. We may just recognize them, see them, bring them up, see they are just a thought. Without that thought, they're not there. So we back in that recognition. And there is a lot of people, like Bob said, who have complete recognition, or who have long enough and clear enough insight that their life has dramatically improved. And there is everyone who knows that they are. So there is no one superior, no one inferior, there is no guru worshipping, there is no surrender to the guru or expecting that someone else will tell you how to live your life. Life is living you. Recognizing that that life is already beating your heart and breathing your lungs and giving you the next thought, which you don't know what it is going to be, but life will make it clear once it arises. It's really all that needs to be done. But we assist each other with sharing whatever helps the recognition, whatever brings us back to that direct experience and away from the narrative, from the chatter. That is always about what is not happening. So we have another mic, and anyone? Lovely.
Yeah, I felt what I heard Bob say was that, the search is the problem, and that can be I found that can be a real stumbling block. And the two things you would go parallel with that is the belief, or the beliefs we have, seeing through those, and then that the search itself is the problem, because that's the tendency of our mind, to search for something. And I saw throughout the week how this I amness, it's not a static thing to become, obviously. That I suppose, Bob, you could also say that presence is life itself, and it's not a static thing. Like I used to get hung up on this sort of state to be in all the time, but it's like a constant livingness, which is everything that's happening in the moment, all together, all at once. Every kind of moment, you know. Moment implies time, but just to use words. It's just that, always changing and it's like not even moving. You couldn't even say it was moving, because I was looking at that, because the word move is also just a concept. It just is what's happening, and the great thing is it's just always unfolding, even unfolding. You can't even describe what that is, but it's never static anyway. I suppose you can always just say what these things, or what is not. The actuality, as you keep reminding us, can never be described. But it's not a static thing at all. It's life, which can't be described. Yeah, and that the search itself is the problem, is an important concept to see through.
Beautiful.
Anything else? I just wanted to comment on what you said earlier today. I wanted to just bring it out for everyone to hear. You want to say it again? Uh-huh. When you couldn't speak?
Well, it's just...
It was great. It was perfect.
I said...
Yeah, give
Bob was in the kitchen and he was describing how he couldn't talk this morning, and he said it was... what did he say it was? It was unbelievable, like he couldn't... The words were... The thoughts were there, Bob said, but the words, because he couldn't... His voice was not coming out, he couldn't articulate the thoughts. And so I said, oh, well, that's it, isn't it, Bob? You know, that's...
non-conceptual awareness.
Non-conceptual awareness. That's closer than the words.
What resonated here was, Bob, when you were talking about being consciousness, loving to be, bliss absolute. Yeah, that seems to be it. And then when there's awareness of that, there's an appearance. There's appearances, there's seeming bodies and interaction of words and thoughts and discussions and stories. But there's really only the presence awareness in which everything else appears. There's some beautiful pointing to that in the film we saw about this character, Bob Adamson, last week. And the filmmakers were very aware of this appearance, which is really just an appearance of light. And the camera was continually going from sharp focus, where the person seems real and the appearance is real, and then quickly going out of focus, blurring it. Now, as soon as that happens, the forms disappear. So there's a constant reminder of this form that we take to be real is really empty. Emptiness. And as soon as that disappears, we'll into a blurred, I think the photographers call it bokeh, out of focus background. The form is gone, it's disappeared, it's empty. That was lovely to see the way they use light to play on the reality behind the forms and the apparent things happening, when it was all just a play of light, a play going on, Leela, play of reality.
Beautiful. Beautiful, and it's really a great highlight of the way, you know, the life is living and using that attention to go, you know, sometimes it is focused, sometimes it is blurred, sometimes there are 5 senses wide open, unfixated, and then the fixation is required. You can see the same in the natural world, amongst the animals. And I love what Catherine reminded, you know, the search is what obscures it, the assumption, believed in assumption, that there is something else to be had, something else to find, that I have to become something else than what I am. That's just a thought, that's just an idea. But that idea, when it is believed, it completely, seemingly obscures that fact that attention moves of its own. When it's required to be relaxed, when it's required to be focused, whatever needs to, according to the condition of the body, will come into the light. For some people, the attention travels to a football game or politics, and it is perfectly fine because life does it of itself. There is nothing wrong. And for some people, that attention goes into obsessing about enlightenment or something else. But if that, you know, you step back and you see that this is lifing, just the same way the attention focus and the vision focuses whatever calls for that attention or that vision, and nobody does it. It's just lifing. It's doing itself. Then even the search, when it arises, because of course now it can be misconstrued. Search is the problem, so I have to stop it. No, you can't do that. There is no you to stop it. If the idea of personal self is superimposed imagination, if there is just life, nobody's beating your heart, nobody's thinking your thoughts. It's just life expressing through the channel of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, thinking. There's no one there. So there's no one to start, there's no one to stop. The search is what is happening. But in that field of cognizing emptiness, it could be cognized, and it is cognized. So realizing that the search, the tendency, the urge to become or to find or to get something is just another urge, the same urge as being thirsty and wanting a water. Realizing that this is what appears in the field of consciousness. It's not what I'm doing or what I'm getting wrong. It's just what's happening. That brings a relaxation. Suddenly, even spiritual search and the obsession becomes impersonal. It's just what's happening. And then if that desire or that longing or that love for the truth is showing up persistently, well, that's where attention will naturally follow. And that wherever it is going to get itself, it's again not up to anyone. And what often happens, it gets you to the place like this. And Bob often asks, you know, what brought you here? You know, I took a tram. No, that wasn't the question. Yeah, but I've been on a search for 20 years. That wasn't a question either. It is the whole universe just getting into that particular setting in which the body inevitably moves and follows the energy and finds itself here. It's absolute mystery. It can't be explained by simple cause and effect, because of that or because of that. And recognizing, seeing that life, like Jesus was saying, recognize thee in all thy way. Seeing that same energy, like what Ross was saying, you know, that just that field, that lila playing. And now, rather than being a psychological suffering and a hell of a nightmare, it becomes like, wow, divine game. Did you want to?
Oh, no, just...
Come on.
No, Mitra had something to say.
Well, more of a question.
Good.
Do you want to say this?
No, I just want to say.
Oops. Sorry. Thank you.
So, how can I put it?
That way.
That way. Okay. Let's. So, well, I'm trying to find in my own experience that I am that field of awareness. So when I go within, it's absolutely clear that there is no one there It's just every day I'm confirming this to myself that I cannot find a person there. It's just a live space. That's all I can find in my experience. So, and then now I wonder, but it's kind of felt within my body. However, when I sit and meditate and I'm still, it just all dissolves. So I can't really say it limits to the skin, but a little bit around it, like definitely not further than, for example, Navi over there. I mean, I don't feel it. And I just wonder that, what, for example, if I hear your voice feels like outside me, even though I hear it within that space. But anyway, I'm just saying, like, for example, if I refer to sound, I'm hearing sound, for example, sound of traffic over there. How can I experience that within me?
How can you not? How can you not? I mean, see how very quickly that translating machinery here introduces the idea of space and time and places, creates the image of reality in which tram is outside. You are sitting, experiencing tram or Bob speaking, and if you close your eyes, the concept of outside may not even arise. But the mind will introduce it as a mental image. You're looking at the mental image. So it is really a little bit about seeing, like being even more attentive into what is first, what arises first, you know? Is it the sense of hearing, or is it the location of what is heard and where in the space? You are the hearing, and then the mind comes and says, I am here, and the sound is there. This is the mind, and it is wonderful. It's a wonderful instrument. You can just enjoy it to the fullest, but you know that this is just a translation. You have a little bit too much alcohol or high psychedelic or whatever else happens, and that will be all scrambled. You will have different sensation. You will have, the sounds may have colors. So can you actually trust that machinery, which is not even consistent in what it projects? So push it aside and go to the direct experience. And direct experience without conceptualizing it into space-time, you know, like dimension. Direct experience is here. Now, can you say that here means in this location but not in that location? That's already conceptualizing, creating, imagining boundaries.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see it this way as well, that hearing is happening, like, so yes, so I can say that there is only, if there is only hearing, yeah, so there is no person in there.
Yeah. Everything happens within that field of hearing. Your narrative, that maybe is a mental space rather
that
than
hearer is a thought. You know, I'm just trying to, even I had that insight like a couple of years ago. There is only hearing, there is no hearer, because the bird sang and I just said, oh well, there's only hearing, there is no hearer. I can see it that way, but I just need to reconfirm all this. And also about seeing, the other day I just sat and I just looked at the candle, and then it just occurred to me that, I mean, how weird is seeing anyway? Like, I mean, how weird it is. I can't work it out. It just puzzled me. Like, first of all, we're born, and I mean, if you look at it scientifically, the way that light comes into our, I don't know what it's called in English, the back of the mind, whatever it's called.
it is reflected on retina and then
Retina, and everything logically should be seen upside down, right?
And it is initially.
It is, and my brain reinterpret that and say, basically, I mean, it's weird because from first day we born, our brain just basically tells you to see everything upside down. That's interpretation is added, which is really weird, you know, but anyway. And then I just wonder, anyway, like, when I was looking at that candle or anything, exactly, that's a feeling of, I mean, what's my reasoning for being here and the candle being there? First of all, I'm seeing only inside my mind, correct? I'm not really seeing anything outside.
You are the whole field. So whatever you are experiencing, you are the field. Everything that is happening within that field of gaze is happening within you. You are not a limited image or a body. Body is just a, you know, it's just a binocular or the glass or the microphone. It is just a vehicle that that can translate what is seen. But you are the field of seeing, field of hearing. Everything is always within you. There's nothing outside of you.
But I want to prove that to myself.
Stop thinking. Stop thinking. Just for a moment. Just for a moment. Yeah. Go. Navi's gonna say something, and then. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, when you have a dream at night, you experience all the sounds from outside of you. You experience all the sights outside of you, but not really, because it's in your head, it's in the dream. So it's all an interpretation, but it still feels separate. Like in the dream, it feels the same way as it does now. Like, I don't feel like I'm the couch. I don't think we're ever going to have that. Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe with drugs, you can have that experience of like, I am everything and feel like you are the couch. But in reality, the experience, it just stays the same. And it's the same thing in a dream. You still experience the whole dream within. It's the interpretation of the mind, like you said with the retina, the switching. It's just the interpretation of whatever is, I don't know, the atoms in the air and how they move. They happen to look like cat. You know what I mean?
Beautiful.
There's nothing to prove here because it is just this. The experience is not going to change. It is all still within you, though. Think of the world as coming into you.
It's what you see.
Yeah, and interpret it within there.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's why Bob says you're already that. You don't have to wait for any experience or any particular state in which something is different than right now. You can recognize right now.
That's right. But, you know, the reason I think for all my feelings and, you know, like, I think I have emotional attachment to the feeling separate. Like, I can see it, as you say, I can look at that and I say, what's my reasoning for being here or that being there? I mean, I'm seeing inside my mind, so here and there really lose its meaning. I can see that.
Yeah.
But because I have lots of, I think, beliefs, I've been so conditioned heavily, I'm trying to, by the experience, break that belief. And that's why I'm asking all these questions.
The belief is just the same, though. It's just another thing you're experiencing. It's just another object.
Just recognize.
The thoughts of what is the meaning, it is another object of experience. It is another thing that you're witnessing.
You know, I don't want to also add any more belief because it doesn't help. I understand. Like, if I accept what you say without referring to my own experience, it won't be my truth, you know? That's where I'm getting. So I see what you're saying, but it's not my experience.
Test it. Don't accept anything. That's a wonderful attitude. Don't be a believer.
Yeah, because it doesn't work. It just will be another belief. I mean, it's not gonna make me feel free.
That's why we keep hammering. See what's the truth. When for a moment you pause that interpretation, when for one single moment you stop buying into the meaning-making machine, which is basically just a program, like, you know, like in your telephone, you ask ChatGPT to read you something, or Siri, or whatever, and it will be narrating whatever is happening. So that mind, direct experience is singular: seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. You don't have to prove it to yourself. You know it. You've seen it. You've been there, even when you were just born, always. And then the mind come on board On the more like a difficult days, it will be probably more persistent. On the easier days, it will be less. You can see how that narrative comes and does the job of interpreting everything for you and creating mental image of what is happening. Now, what is the meaning of me being here? Blah, blah, blah. Direct experience is one thing, and that narrative is another thing. If you can actually see how quickly the narrative comes on board and rewrite the whole story for you, instead of just singular experiencing, now I am here, I'm Mitra, I'm not good enough, and there is something else, and other people feel it and I don't. This is all blah, blah, blah. Direct experience. Just see if you can pause that blah, blah, blah for a moment, and now, without believing anything or anyone, see what's truly happening. That will be yours.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
And you actually effectively did it. You just said a few times that when you look inside, you can't find the self. And then the mind comes, oh shit, there it is again. But then you look again and you can't find. Okay. You can't, so keep looking until perhaps that realization will maybe come into front rather than in the background. Now it seems to be hidden, but it is hidden in a plain view. It's never not here. Bob has this shortcut. What's wrong with right now if I don't think about it? Just for a split second. Oh, all right. Or Julia has the method which, letting go of whatever arises. And then eyes closed, open. And these moments are becoming more prominent, more, frequent. Until it isn't an experience or state that you occasionally get to, but it is recognized as this is the base. This is the natural state. And obscuration comes and hide it. But you have to have enough of direct experience.
Okay. Keep repeating. Thank you so much.
No, that's beautiful. And Cole wanted to say something.
That's right.
I'll give you another one before Cole.
Yeah, this is a bit historical now, but Mitra, I just wanted to say this. You look at reality and you say, yes, I can see this really clearly, but, and then the mind comes in and it challenges reality. Okay, why not challenge what the mind says? The mind is not, obviously it's not reliable. It gets so much wrong, and it gets, when we're dealing with these sorts of things, the mind comes in, it says, oh, well, I can hear the traffic noise, it's way out there. But, that's the mind. You do not know where the traffic noise is. You can hear it, but you have not a clue where it is. And yet the mind says it's a long way away, So the mind does this all the time. It gives us a false, it's all story. It gives us a false idea of this, and it stops us from really seeing it clearly. So just challenge the mind and see whether, which is right, reality, how many years have I got? I have no clue how many years I've got. In my present experience, I do not know. But everybody will say too, and that's the mind. So try to keep the mind out of it and just relax and just be.
Beautiful.
Sorry, was this on?
Go on. Go.
Me go? Me go. Look, it's the mind's in a way our greatest tool, but it's also we get addicted to it. That's the thing, and so we're always trying to work it out through mind, and letting go of mind to direct experience is a movement into heart knowing, and that's just a completely different perception of. You start going into reality. The other is interpretive reality. And while we're caught in interpretation, it's always measuring, always judging, always, but we need that for survival. We need that, that's important. But to know ourselves and to the nature of living and love, We have to let go of the mind, and that's a movement into heart knowing.
Yeah. Yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
Great reminder. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just thinking, sort of, okay, I'm venturing into language now, and I just keep noticing how language just skews everything. Like, even if, like Mitch was doing, we try to describe, what's happening, we're still using the personal pronoun. Yeah. I this, and it happens in here, and I then, and you, and I, and you have to be very careful, because are you still using the same I that you shouldn't be using? Anyway, it just, if I reflect on my own experience, I think one misconception that I had was that the duality somehow is going to disappear, or you have to get rid of it. When in fact, the duality is what consciousness is doing, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's
wonderful.
It's what it is. Yeah, it's part of it. I mean, it's one of the, I suppose you could say, one of the key things that consciousness or cognizing emptiness does. Yeah. Is it's create this duality. So there's nothing kind of wrong with it, and it's not going to go away. It's just, that's it. That's what this is it right now. This is like, it's doing that. So for me, when I kind of realized that, it was like a clunk, something clunked into place. And the sense of having to make an effort to somehow diminish or get out of the way the duality. No, I mean, I just had the sense you don't have to do anything. This is what it is. Right, and that, for me, that was a moment.
Yeah, but there is a book, one of books that was edited by Gilbert. It's a transcription of Bob's talk. It's called One Essence, Appearing, Experiencing and Expressing as Everything. So it is really one in its essence, but it is the infinity or the totality of everything in the way it appears. And absolutely, thank you for bringing it up. There is nothing, absolutely nothing wrong in the way the duality plays out. There is no other way for that source essence or that one essence or the basic space or the emptiness to experience and express itself in any other way than through creating this whole dance of forms, to be able to reflect itself as something seemingly other. So it is really to be celebrated, this whole beauty and richness of life. It can, even though it has to be in a pairs of opposite. There has to be pain and pleasure. Because if there was no pain and pleasure, there would be no sensing. There has to be day and night, otherwise there would be nothing, really. All the colors, all the black and white and hot and cold and up and down, it has to be this way. And the tendency, and yes, you highlighted brilliantly too, the tendency of the mind is to always follow, chase the pleasure and avoid pain naturally, because it is very, very simple binary programming that pleasure won't kill you and the pain, it might. And that organism, that life, that pattern is needed for the experience and expression. So it naturally is equipped in that Satchitananda, being, knowing, loving to be appearing as that survival instinct, as that craving pleasure and avoiding pain. And of course, because it's a very, very simple sort of a binary piece of software, it goes pear shape. Alcohol gets you a little bit of pleasure and you become deadbeat, like Bob's personal story. He's been going through depth of alcoholism. He's got 64 years of sobriety right now. But if not for that extreme unhappiness and darkness, well, there wouldn't be a light, there wouldn't be a possibility. So even that experience as being separate or limited, being a person, is necessary to know the freedom from it. So it's brilliant the way it appears. Suffering, physical suffering, pain is inevitable in life because it's part of that duality. It can't be, otherwise there would be any pleasure. If there was no pain, pleasure wouldn't be known, couldn't be known. Because everything in that appearance, in that manifested world, is only known from the background of its opposite. But suffering, psychological suffering, resistance to pleasure, that comes from the narrative mind. And recognizing that this narrative mind is only an advisor, it's not a master. It's only a piece of the narrative of commentary. It's not the truth. It's not something to be obeyed blindly and fall for. That brings a relief which is only known from its opposite again. Those who suffered enough, and then it often happens in a blast, like you said, you can tell it was a moment where that suffering lifts. But for a lot of people, that suffering doesn't lift in one instant blast. It is like peeling of the onion, and the lies are dropping away one after another. And it's a old discussion of the instant versus gradual, which is again another way of conceptualizing and including the brain and the mind and the time into a picture. There is only and ever this moment. Beautiful, alive, vibrant moment of now. And right now, can I see what's experienced directly and what's narrated? And now if anyone wants to ask who can see, who cares? Is it seen? Is it known? Is it clear? And this is the invitation. Moment to moment, finding that place of just merging with life, really. And even that is wrongly said, because there is no one to merge, there is no one who is separate. It's really just dropping the idea of separation. It's just disbelieving, disengaging the attention from the idea of separation. It's relaxing out of that wrong concept, and finding yourself in a place you never left. Without the concept, there's nothing has ever happened. There is no past trauma, there is no conditioning. And the body will still behave as it has been conditioned, but without the concept of it, there is no suffering included. And we have a couple of comments here. Just a quick... Oh yeah, wonderful. Yeah, you go first.
Okay, just to expand on what the lady over there shared, I've noticed the word empty a lot. And I would like to share that since I was brought up with more in the Buddhist tradition, the way I believe Buddha expressed it is that it's a state of bliss. That non-duality, in fact, is a state of bliss. That it is a state of being at one with everything, therefore a fullness, a completeness. And in that state, we are creative beings. We are only limited by imagination. And I have a personal mantra, which is, we are either creating or we're consuming. And we live in a society, in a virtual reality, in which we are very much encouraged to consume. And when we're consuming, we are more prone to that state of emptiness, because post-consumption, we will inevitably come to a place of emptiness. Because when we're not creating, when we're not actually in that state of bliss, then we naturally feel a sense of emptiness, which need to be filled, and which is actually a false state. And I believe that is what non-duality is. Because the contrast comes from the flow state, where things need to be constantly moving and letting go of. So the yoga mantra of never give up, which is never giving up on the idea that we can all be whole and always let go. Because by letting go, and currently I just had to move house and I had to put all my things into storage, and I saw it as an opportunity to actually let go of a lot of things which hold meaning for me, but really it has no meaning. Really, you find out I mean, if you want to prove something to yourself, we all get there in the end. None of us get to stay in the virtual reality forever. I mean, you know, someone like Brian Johnson, who's spent millions of dollars trying to live forever, is attempting, you know, to not have to go down that path. But the reality is no one's achieved it so far from what we know, I suppose, in history. So this constant state of renewal, including our bodies and the human being itself. So I personally believe, you know, that we as beings are also in a renewal state when we get downloaded. So I just wanted to share that I've been thinking about how is it possible, and I believe it is, to actually wake up each morning as a newborn, to not have any preconceived notions as to what's possible and what's not possible. I mean, we've all observed babies just exploring and the state of wonder at everything. When we can see through that newborn's eyes, I feel it's very possible to be easily in the state of bliss, and I've certainly experienced it. So, and I've also experienced the huge contrast of darkness itself. And I would say that rather than trying to get rid of it, it's a beauty in itself. To understand, to feel this profound that we are in this reality. However, I have also noticed a lot of people share with me what they think my reality is, what their reality is. But I constantly amuse myself, you know, every single day. Wow, that's their reality. That's, you know, my reality, right? And maybe my reality is also very scary for them at times. So it's constant source of amusement. It's my own little game of blissful state. So I just wanted to share that. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, Bob.
What came
Bob
up?
wanted to say something.
Oh,
Did you want to say something?
The Buddha called it the cognizing emptiness. He said the whole thing's empty. And he made the statement that emptiness is form. And the form can be nothing other than the emptiness. So we're cognizing emptiness all the time, though it's appearing to be formed. But the forms are all empty. It's all the one essence. Nothing other than that. No matter which way it patterns or seems to be.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And just coming back to Mitra, what kept coming up for me was the questioner. For a long time when I came to speak to Bob, I always had a lot of questions. And I was trying to figure it out in the mind, well, not that there is any mind, figure it out in the, usual way, the habitual way that the duality, pairs of opposites work, and those questions kept coming for years, and I was trying to figure it out, I had all these fantastic pointers, who is the questioner, it's just the memory, it's just the me, it's just a response to the me can only live in the memory, etc., etc. And I'd be listening and nodding and, and then all of a sudden I didn't have any questions. No more questions. Just one day I woke up and there was no questions. Yeah. I just didn't have any more questions, and so everything I'd been told was true. Every pointer that had been given to me was true. There is no questioner. There is only oneness, and that the narration, as Kat so rightly said, comes in and has a big story about everything and separates everything and tries to figure it out. That's its nature. It's always got a big once upon a time about everything, and then all of a sudden it doesn't happen anymore. No, seriously, the question doesn't come up anymore, and I never did anything. I never did anything. Because if I did anything, I'd be still going round and round in my mind, or not the mind, in the memory, trying to figure everything out, you know. But I don't have any more buts, only the one I'm sitting on.
Beautiful. And I have here from Catherine and James, Nisargadatta points out clearly that consciousness is our only capital. There is only one consciousness, and without it there is no one to see or say anything. Consciousness is prior to the I am. Yeah, simple. Also, there are different ideas and concepts of what the bliss is, and I just like to bring up Bob's beautiful clarifying one-liner. He's got such brilliant one-liners. Don't you say you had a blissful sleep? So what the blissful means, really, as you were saying, completely inseparable. In the deep sleep where there is no separation, there's no dreaming happening, it's just a blissful sleep. So bliss very often is interpreted by people as a promise of endless orgasm, of ecstasy that will basically shut down your brain within a couple of hours because of a serotonin shock. That device cannot process a serotonin shock. If you were to have the constant orgasm or ecstasy for longer than the fuses here could handle, the body drops dead. And apparently the near-death experiences are very, very often and is very similar to a serotonin shock, sort of a death type. So the bliss, as a subtle way Bob is translating in a Hindu scripture, Sat Chit Ananda, being consciousness bliss, or being knowing and stillness, or being knowing and loving to be. So it is a subtle joy of being, but not in a way of experiencing intense pleasure, which is the opposite to pain. Any experience that comes and goes is just a phenomena. So there is a basic space, which is that pure essence of consciousness, and within that there is an ecstasy and there is no ecstasy, and there is a orgasm, and there is an ordeal or displeasure or pain. All of those come and go. Whatever has the beginning has an end, and is not worthy of dwelling much into, because it is not the reality. Reality is that which never changes, Sat Chit Ananda, being, knowing and preserving life, or loving to be. And everything else, names of experiences or durations of pleasure, intensity, those things are coming and going. And the body will always be wired to chase pleasure. That's why we get addicted to chocolate or whatever, or shopping, or whatever the distraction is, and whatever the impact it has on diminishing that subjective sense of suffering or incompleteness. But if you really look deep, is there anyone there who actually is incomplete? And if you see that there is no one there, it's just what's happening, it's just the current experience. So the existential angst, if it is any, oh, I'm not good enough, or they don't like me, or they don't love me, or whatever the concept is, that causes the body to clench and the heart to melt, and the sweating palms, and maybe stress in the back, or maybe short, shallow breath, whatever is the sensation appearing, and whatever the thought is behind that sensation, this is just a passing phenomena. And that passing phenomena is only possible because of that subtle Sat Chit Ananda, being consciousness bliss, the joy of living in which it can be experienced. And then from that perspective, it's not personal. So if it is there, okay, this is what is there right now. But it's not personal. It is calling for attention. Maybe there is a feeling of a knot in a gut or something, or lump in the throat. It calls the attention. If the attention, like you were saying, is a curious attention, and you see with that amazement, well, again, that doesn't cause the suffering. And it dissolves, because naturally everything in nature, all the energy, flows in an ergonomic way, from the high to low, or from finding its level, just evening itself. So if there is any deficiency and call for attention, the attention is delivered. The deficiency is evened up, like a river, like a water in nature. That's the healing. So it's just discovering the content is secondary, but knowing that this content, whatever the content is, can only be there because there is a consciousness. You are the consciousness. You are the field of life, awareness, radiance. And within that field, everything's constantly changing. Like Bob is having this beautiful metaphor of, seeing. Seeing is happening. You wake up in the morning and the seeing is there. It's already fully present. Yes, for the first couple of weeks it may be upside down, but we don't even, the recorder wasn't working. So the memory isn't even there. Because it's the fine-tuning instrument, memorizing, creating those. The neural networks weren't ready to record it. So seeing is happening. Early in the morning you wake up and the content of seeing is different. It's a bedroom or wherever you're sleeping. And then an hour later, the content, the seeing is the same. The capacity or the field of seeing is the same. And the content is different. Maybe it's a breakfast or maybe it's a morning walk, whatever it is. So we are actually prioritizing recognition of that field. And the content, constantly changing content, is amazing. It's totally to be appreciated. That's how life finds itself in an infinite amount of expressions and reflections of itself. It's totally to be appreciated. But it's not to be unconditionally believed as anything more than just passing phenomena. And just giving that, what you say, Bob, giving credit where credit is due. And I see you have something to...
Yeah, just a little thing.
Please.
A second go. Just really on the subject of the way that the sense of things being on the outside, that sense is very tenacious. Like it seems like a fact. And I think that one thing I've noticed is that as Western people, we're kind of up against a lot of concepts which are quite different from, those of non-duality and other traditions. And one of them is the idea that the senses are not the mind. So you've got the mind, and then you've got the senses. So what we tend to think is that the information we get through the senses is somehow primary. It's before the mind. So we see, the world looks outside. So we tend to think that's the way things are working. So we see that things look outside, that's the senses giving us that impression, and then the mind comes in and interprets it. But actually, in the Eastern traditions, the senses are also mind. Yeah. So it's already an interpretation, you see. It's not a raw reality. Yeah. It's not a raw reality or a primary reality. It's already an interpretation. Absolutely. And that certainly helped me when I realised, hold on, there's different ways of conceptualizing the senses going on here. Very different. It's the materialist kind of, And so, and just to mention that, the idea that seeing, the process of seeing is light coming in through the retina. Neuroscientists have thrown that out a long time ago. That's the materialist story of vision. What they're saying now is vision is actually creative. It's not passive. So the world is not upside down. We don't, again, that's assuming that our senses are giving us primary, raw, absolute reality. To say that, the world is upside down and then our mind turns it the right way up, that's very 19th century. That's not current. Not really. I mean, it's one story which kind of works, but it's the materialist story. It's not the current. Absolutely.
Well, it's still, they're still experimenting with that. They're putting people on helmets with upside down world for a couple of weeks, and they see how the wire
Yeah.
the brain rewires. So they're not completely thrown out of the
Oh,
window.
no, it still
but
works.
you're totally right that they are better
Yeah.
theories of how this operates,
Yeah.
which include how it operates when you sleep at night.
That's right.
When there is no light coming through the retina and still there is
Exactly.
perception fully blown.
It's all there, yeah.
improvised.
It's all there, yeah. So, I mean,
Yes.
it works, yeah. The upside down thing works. It
Yeah.
works the same as I can walk to the tram stop now.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that the world is outside of me.
But yeah.
It doesn't.
Absolutely. Mm.
That's already an interpretation. So
Yes.
that's
And, you know, the thing about interpretation is Patanjali said is a cessation of mental modifications. You know, that in that deep quietness where there's let go of mental interpretation and sensual involvement there, then you're seeing directly, and that seeing directly places you in the heart, you know, in the heart center, because the brain is kind of switched off. It's kind of primary as a primary locus. You know, it's still functioning, like you can still talk and, you know, whatever, but the heart knowing then comes forward in non-separation, absolute non-separation. So you're really in non-duality, only in letting go of the mind.
The narrative part.
The narrative part of the
Yes.
mind, totally.
Yes,
Yeah,
because
because there's no, you're no longer that.
yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
Because in Buddhism they say mind is one of the senses,
Yeah.
but also they're completely inseparable. You can't separate anything from anything. There is just like this, you know, even science says there is just this electrical impulses going through this cells. Even that is a theory improvised in this moment right now. Even that is an image, it's an illusion. It's part of the manifested world. The whole science, the whole history, the whole anthropology is just how this machinery improvises a beautiful, plausible meaning of what is happening.
And what it does is it constructs a reality.
Yes.
So to go into unconstructed reality is really just letting go of that, you know.
Yeah.
So, and that's always right now, you know, that if you're in the no mind, then you are in reality, just not a constructed one.
Yeah, beautiful. And the appreciation for the way it works and seeing that nothing has to change. I mean, even the narrative just needs recognition. And then it can really give you a lot of joy. It's what an incredible entertainment to just, you know, because the function is to yap and narrate and complain and just warn about this can happen, that can happen. But if that's not taken seriously, that's like, yeah, even that, nothing is a problem. You see how life in its infinite creativity and perfection reflects itself as perfection. And that includes that bullshit content creator, which may be helpful at times. Yeah. That's it.
I had a girlfriend that made me watch a movie sitting upside down.
Yeah.
That's just to watch the, you know, all those
The
senses.
processes, yeah.
Peter was I was gonna ask you to say, you were gonna say something.
Something.
You darling? Did you want to say something? No? Okay. Chris.
Just in terms of lived experience or ordinary experience, there are moments all the time, I'm sure for everybody, where you're, let's say, looking at something, and but for whatever reason, mist or light or something, you don't know what it is. There's that moment where, what the heck is that? And in that moment, the mind, there's the sense that the mind is absolutely relentlessly seeking a meaning, a definition. What? I've got that. And at the same time, in those moments of not knowing and uncertainty, there's a tremendous vitality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you discover that it in fact is a tree, that's relatively boring to compare with what it was when it was unknown and you were just in the space of connecting with something. And that's a common experience, I think, you know, for everybody. So it's available without effort if we can find a way, or a way is found just to suspend the, you know, the relentless meaning seeking for a second or two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Just thinking about that, if we do anything 100%, yeah, then we must be returned to non-duality, right? Everything's the absolute. So the only thing we need to do then is to, if we're caught in considering one pole of a dilemma, you know, then all we need to do is consider the other pole. It's not that we need to do anything about that, but just simply to entertain the possibility that, you know, I am the other aspects as well. In which case, you know, all questions dissolve then, in that moment. We are the simple absolute nature that you're talking about. Yeah. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say. Should have lifted it something.
There is a comment here from Bill. Bob often says, "One expressing as everything." I love that. Life is totally free, so free that it is free to pretend that it is not free. It is so obvious that freedom is inescapable. It is absolutely obvious. Thank you, Bill. The freedom is inescapable. The mind is temporary. It's like if not right now, well, you know, when you go to sleep. Anyway, I like what you brought, Chris, about the way the mind is bringing up the meaning. Bob has this beautiful pointer. Watch the mind. Be curious about how this machine functions, what it does, because not only is super entertaining, but it's also super liberating to see how there is no you doing any of it. So there is no guilt, there is no shame, there is no sense of attachment, or there is just an amazement in the way it works. And I like sometimes, because, you know, we go outside sometimes, watch the clouds, and you can see how that interpreter projects shit on clouds, you know. Very often facial recognition software in this brain that was mapped by the computers, and we can see how it functions now. We all have it. Little baby actually installs it very early to recognize first the sounds and then the faces. It is survival strategy. It's a mechanism that is necessary. But we can see how, I remember being a child and looking at moving curtains and seeing faces in them, or just seeing faces in leaves on the tree or in the clouds. That's just a natural way the brain trains itself. And I can see still sometimes Bob looks at the cloud. Oh, can you see a face? Where? Oh, here. Oh, yeah. Okay. So it is that pattern. But if you treat it lightly, obviously nobody's going to believe that there is a real face there in the clouds. So why don't apply that lightness and that disbelief of the way it imposes things? It overlays on the reality, the meaning that it is given. And then just stay amazed. Oh, that's that. Yeah, so thank you, everyone. Thank you for...
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for coming, Bob. Thanks, Kat. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
He wants to say
Bob?
something?
No voice.
Yeah. But you show up and you make yourself available. And you're here sitting and radiating the frequency of peace and love and serenity in the state that is Bob's health is not on its best, and here we have.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.